I really didn't wanna do another video so soon on Sargon of Akkad, but yesterday he pulled this shit, so I just can't, not comment on it.
And that I am not just a content creator, but a representative of something larger than myself, and should have been mindful of that at the time. And by all accounts, this is probably true. I am certainly being treated as the figurehead of something, even if nobody can define it and our enemies would describe it as
skeptic community.
I've never liked this label, firstly because it represents only a reaction to something else, and secondly because it means we are allowing our enemies to define us. However, having a large group of independent-minded individualists agree on a label that will encompass a specific set of core beliefs is difficult. Frankly,
So he is admitting he is a leader in the skeptic community, and later on he even makes attempts to make a new definition for the skeptic community, since he says he doesn't like that label.
Identify ourselves. I recommend we choose a label and stick with it. If someone who promotes feminism is a feminist, and someone who promotes socialism is a socialist, and someone who promotes Islamism is an Islamist, and someone who promotes fascism is a fascist, then someone who promotes liberalism must be a liberalist. I say that we use this label until it's dead or we find something better.
So, rise of the liberalist collective of individualists. Yay! First of all, his spiel about the skeptic community being used by their enemies and all that stuff. Well, I think it's basically BS. He made this video almost a year ago in February 2017 after the Candid bullshit drama stuff. Or, well, it wasn't drama, it was a scandal because some members of the skeptic community were doing scandalous shit like selling out to this company that collects your data, and skeptics are always for free speech unless that free speech criticizes them, basically. And then Sargon himself, at least not according to my knowledge, he didn't take any money from Candid or wasn't involved with Candid. But then he did this long stream with harmful opinions, and Sargon was basically saying, stay away from my community, and doing it in his passive-aggressive pill-pull manner, and not even manning up and just saying get the fuck out. But anyway, he was already acting like a leader back then, so this is nothing new. And here he also says that it sounds like he agreed to the label of skeptic community.
The word community means the condition of sharing or having certain attitudes and interests in common. There's a lot of resistance in the skeptic community to this term, probably because of the homogeneous nature of other communities on the internet, but it is an accurate description of what we are. There's no reason not to use the term, but I also think we should be mindful of the current state of affairs.
So he didn't object to using the term skeptic community back then, but now here he is objecting. Of course, once again, people can change their opinions and stuff, but it just seems pointless. He's simply, arguing semantic. It's sort of like the South Park episode. In the future, there was no religion, but there were different atheist factions fighting over, because they couldn't decide what they should call the faction or something like that. They couldn't agree on a label, so they started wars. So that's basically what Sargon is doing. So yeah, already a year ago, he admitted that they're a community and he was acting like a leader. So that he's coming out now and saying okay, I'm basically a leader, I'm a figurehead of this liberalist community. Well, he was the figurehead already a year ago of the skeptic community, and it took him this long to admit it. I'm not saying he's being deceptive or anything, he's just being fucking retarded. I don't even know how to describe it. And yesterday, Mr. Metaker, or Jim, and he started this stream with Louis Lavau, another member of the Liberalist community. And then later on, Sargon joined, and they were talking about this, Sargon's new brilliant idea of the Liberalist community. So I just want to play a few clips from this.
We agree on that, buddy.
Oh, okay, fantastic. Now let's get back to my question. You said you're going to counter SJWs, but the alt-right is also your enemy. So what are you going to do to counter them?
Nothing. They're irrelevant.
If you counter your enemies, they win. Sargon of Akkad, 2018. That's basically what he's saying. Like, I don't fucking get it. Like, he goes out to say, like, yeah, we're in a culture war. We are fighting against the enemies on the far left and on the far right. And then, what are you gonna do to your enemies? Nothing. Like, what the fuck? I don't know. Like, is this some 666D chess or something? Like, this is even more profound power gaming than, Donald Trump and Kraut and T put together? Or, like, what the fuck? Or you say you want to do something, He in this video, he's complaining about like, pushing transgenderism onto children, and sure, I agree with him that we should do something about it. But then I'm not gonna do anything with my enemies, like, unless maybe he assumes that maybe Sargon assumed that Jim is asking, like, okay, are you gonna attack your enemies, like, firebomb their offices or something? Like, I just don't know what the fuck is Sargon even thinking?
Think that
I'm asking you really simple questions. You said our enemies, and you listed them as SJWs and alt-right. And then when I said, what are you going to do to counter them? You're like, well, they're mean to me. It seems to be specific to you.
I didn't say that they were mean to me after you said, what are you going to do to counter them? What I'm going to do to counter them is just advocate like they do. Hold conferences, talk to people, try and put across a set of principles that are more positive than, it's okay to say fuck white people. I think that's a good start, don't you?
I don't know. I just thought that that's what Sargon had been basically doing for a couple of years, but I guess like he mentioned, he said he's gonna hold conferences and events in the real world. I'm not like completely against his idea. Like, it might actually make a bigger difference than just making YouTube videos and shit on the internet. Well, of course, there's the recent example of the Kilroy event that just apparently isn't going to happen. So maybe those conferences that he is thinking of holding won't happen. I guess he's just missing those ball pits so much, so he wants to hold his own conference. But yeah, I'm not really against the idea of YouTubers or just people on the internet organizing and doing something in the real world to combat these globalist forces. Like, in principle, I agree with it, but I just think the whole thing, how Sargon is trying to do it, is half-assed. Well, first of all, I was hoping that he'd try to do something like back in 2015. I was sort of like, okay, back then already Sargon had a fairly big platform. I hope that he would say something to his fans and followers, try to promote some actual change in the real world, but he didn't do it back then. And, back then I think Sargon was more reasonable. Since then, he's grown much more egotistical and nepotistic. So, no, I have very little faith that Sargon will actually manage to enact any kind of positive change in the real world. Sargon and his cohorts. Because I don't have faith in their abilities or in their integrity. And another thing is this whole fucking thing about, we are a group of individualists, but not a collective. It's retarded. Like, this whole liberalist label is retarded. Like, doesn't really fucking matter what the label is. And also the idea like a liberalist or an individualist or even a, I am pro free speech, you're not really promoting anything. Like, they are just hollow descriptions of something. Like, if you really want to promote something in the real world, you have to promote, traditional families or Christian values or communist values or something. Like, you really want to, like, hey, I want you to look at these ideas and you should adopt them, but like, I'm an individualist, I value the individual more than the collective. It's not anything concrete. Like, it doesn't mean anything. And yeah, same with all this free speech stuff. I guess like Kilroy is a perfect example of that. There's no point to saying I'm pro free speech if you're not saying anything that is actually controversial. If you're just saying like, yeah, I want everybody to have free speech, but you should actually say something like, like I wanna be able to question the Holocaust or something like that. I wanna talk about the Jewish question, but Sargon clearly isn't for that. Like, he might say like, yes, I support your right to do those things, but I think that's completely stupid. So he is not like although, like, yes, technically he is for free speech, but he is not really for free, open-minded discussion, because I cannot imagine him actually entertaining those matters seriously. He just, like, whenever he's put in a tough spot, he either says, I don't care, or then he laughs like, ha ha ha, ha, like a bitch.
Sorry, say again.
I said that, the Richard Spencer saying you were dumber than you think you are, and Murdoch putting the Akira Baby video out got to you. And now you're telling me somebody sent you the information that I tweeted that. And then after you get that information, you put the video up. So I was right.
No, you weren't. This is just like, apparently I haven't watched your last video about Crowd, but apparently you were clipping that in a weird way as well. Jim, honestly, it's really weird watching you desperately try to make something of this, but it's actually not.
What did I desperately try to make out of Crowd, Sargon? What did I desperately try to make out of Crowd?
Think there's a narrative here. I didn't know about any of this. I've been spending...
Sargon, you're like, I don't know what you do, Jim. And then you say, well, people are sending me information about you. So stop fucking lying. What did I twist about Crowd?
That doesn't give me a comprehensive understanding of the things you're doing. I don't spend very much amount of time...
I don't know what you're doing, Sargon, but people are sending me information about what you're doing. Don't try that pill-pull shit on me, man.
Bitch, that is not fucking what you're doing.
I'm being honest with you. What the fuck are you talking about? I don't know what Jim's up to when people send me information about Jim.
This might be the greatest moment in internet history. Jim is calling Sargon out on his pill bullshit, and pill pull, of course, is the Jewish method of lying by just trying to confuse your opponent with contradicting statements, but you cannot clearly connect them, to point out like, no, you clearly lied, because he is just, moving the goalpost, all that, and all that shit. I just love it. And yeah, I think Sargon has been lying in his pill pull manner for years. Like, it takes some refinement to see it, I suppose. Like, it took me some time, certainly. I'm not saying that I saw Sargon for the bullshit artist that he is, immediately. And maybe he wasn't in the beginning, but yeah, he's becoming more obvious as time goes on. I want to make an observation. Throughout this discussion, Sargon says that that Mr. Metaker doesn't understand the meaning of the word individualist. But I think Mr. Metaker is the best example on the whole fucking internet of an individualist. Like, this is an individual who basically does what he wants. He interacts with all kinds of groups, with all kinds of people, but he has his own principles and his own agenda, and he doesn't try to impose it onto others, unlike Sargon. Sargon, on the other hand, he has been harping on about the fucking British classical liberalism for years, and implicitly or explicitly, he's not really content with anybody unless they exhibit same kind of beliefs as him, you know, when it comes to British classical liberalism. He really is like, it's a tired argument to say that, you know, liberals are the real racists, but it is unfortunately true. Like, I think Sargon is like, he is an idealist imperialist, and he does not approve of others like really taking to heart other kinds of ideologies or like, you know, religious views. Like he is like, oh, you can have your religion, but as long as you're a classical liberal at heart, he has a problem with you. Like I've seen it many times, and well, that's my impression of the worldview of Sargon. And he would of course deny it and try some, you know, pill bullshit. I just think it's ironic. The crypto collectivist Sargon, who claims to hate collectivism, he's claiming that the actual individualist, de facto individualist, Mr. Metaker, that he doesn't understand individualism. Let's play this clip.
I found it funny and I was laughing at it.
Yeah, but you must just be laughing at the concept of activism then, right?
Yes, I think people generally that describe themselves as activists are fucking retards, yes.
Okay, well, we agree. I agree. Activism is retarded, but unfortunately our enemy's doing it far better than we are.
Oh,
and, I mean, are you suggesting they're not anti-white male? I think that we can classify them as enemies at this point.
So now he is saying that his enemies are anti-white male, like the SJWs. Most of the time in the debate between Sargon and Richard Spencer, Sargon was trying to say oh, what is white? Like what is a white person? Describe it to me. Sort of like doesn't exist. But now he's saying like his enemies are anti-white male. So clearly he was just, you know, bullshitting and trying to confuse Richard Spencer. And I suppose this is another example of pill pull or something like that, because clearly he believes in whiteness, in white people. However, I'd like to give my 2 cents on what I think it means to be white, because I think being white is like an exclusionary description. And what I mean by that is that if I compare myself, I'm Finnish, and I suppose Finns are white in that Finns are basically white, or we're Fingals, whatever. But so if I compare myself to like you know, Africans or Arabs or something, I can say like, you know, that's a black guy, that's an Arabic guy, I'm racially different, I am white. In that sense, it makes the word like these general labels of, you know, white, black, yellow, or Asian. They are like this to differentiate different racial groups from each other. But it's not like I don't think it's really like an inclusive description of like it doesn't. I don't think you can really unify based on the notion of being white, as Richard Spencer claims. For example, like if I were to meet, let's say, an Italian and a German guy, like I can agree, like, okay, we are all white, but I don't really feel like I can form a personal connection based on them being white. It's more like, you know, if I want to, you know, make friends and find common ground, I can't really just like, hey, we're white guys, you know, we should be friends. Like maybe I can be like, maybe we share similar hobbies or ideas or something. Like, you know, I've never been to Germany, but I've been to Italy when I was a kid. Maybe I can try to like, hey, by the way, I once went to Italy or something like that. Or like, you know, like, hey, you're German, so what do you think about Hitler? I haven't read Mein Kampf, but I've been thinking about it. Something like that. However, like, let's say that I was to go to, you know, Africa, Congo or something, you know, surrounded by black people everywhere and stuff. And then one day I went to some, you know, bar or something, and then I saw this, you know, German and Italian guy there. then I could like, oh, like have some sort of, connection to them, like, oh, we are white guys in this, black country or something. In that way, I guess I could conceive of whiteness being some, inclusionary definition. But yeah, basically, like, for me, like, the word white and black, when it comes to, races, I see it as like emerging in 19th century America or something. Like, there were the whites, the blacks, some yellow coolies, and then the red Native Americans. And to clarify, I think that races exist. I just I think of myself more as to belonging to the Finno-Ugric race or whatever, or like, there's a Germanic race and whatnot. I think the descriptor white is a bit too generic, as is the black descriptor. And not all Africans look racially the same, not all Asians look racially the same. Like, Japanese, Chinese, Koreans, they all have unique traits in them.
You don't think that you actually uttered the phrase "a group of independent-minded individualists coming together with an enemy list and a set amount of goals"? You want to, you want to organize as a political group. I'm guessing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that wouldn't be collectivism.
No, collectivism is the principle of putting the value of the group above the individual.
Exactly. So what I'm saying is, could I call myself a liberalist once you've established this and go around telling people that as an official liberalist, our party policy is gassing kikes?
No, obviously not.
So I'd have to yield to the group's will.
No, you would just be using the term incorrectly. It's like saying I'm a fascist, but I don't want the government.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is,
doesn't make me
if the group is establishing norms that you have to follow, it would be a collective, would it not?
It would be a group. It wouldn't be collectivist. You're trying to combine the words, and that's not accurate.
Jim, you can't play this word game. It just doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. This is what I'm saying. You're just using the term incorrectly. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be a dick. I'm really not.
Okay, so you're going to create a large group of individuals that's not a collective, that's going to come together with a goal list and a political party ideology.
It is a group.
Okay.
Jesus Christ.
I said a group of individuals. That's not a collective.
No, every group is made up of individuals. Not every group is made up of individualists.
Oh, Jesus Christ. You know what I'm saying, sir.
No,
No, I don't. I'm literally saying.
Okay, Sargon, you're going to create a group of individualists, okay,
Yes.
that's not a collective, yet has, so it is a collective?
Why don't you define collective for us? Because maybe we've got a different definition to you.
Well, you're talking about two different things, right? So a collectivist would be somebody that adheres to the group will, or the group will overrides their individual rights. So my individual right as an individualist would be what? Free speech, free association.
Yes.
So I could go out and say I'm a liberalist and we want to gas the kikes. And you, as another liberalist, couldn't say I'm wrong because you would be
I
using the group.
That would definitely be going against the principles of liberalism. Yes.
That was so painful. Like, Jim was just trying to make a reasonable argument to point out that these individualists are, in fact, creating a group which is a collective. And to point out, already a year ago, Sargon admitted that the skeptics are a community. And he had a slightly different definition for it, but I found this one. A community is a unified body of individuals, and the people with common interests living in a particular area. Well, the skeptic community would fall into that. They have common interests, being anti-SJW, for example, and they live in a particular area, which is basically the West. So yeah, they have. So I would say that a community is even like more tightly knit group than a collective, since a collective is basically just a group, denoting a number of persons or things considered as one group or whole, like of relating to or being a group of individuals, involving all members of a group as distinct from its individuals. like let's say you have just a class at school. It's already a group, it's already a collective, even though like it's not like the first day, it's not really a community necessarily, at least like not in the sense that those people, they don't necessarily know each other, they're not friends or anything, but they are just they're a group, they're a collective, they do something together, and this is so fucking cringy that Sargon has such a hard time even admitting that yes, they have a group, they have group interests, like it's some sort of big sin. Because like I've been like just the whole individualist versus collectivist thing, I thought this whole debate has been so fucking retarded for a long time, because well, every human being is an individual, and every human being is a member of some sort of group or collective, unless you live alone in a cave in a on a deserted island or something. But so otherwise, if you interact with other people in any way, whether it's on the internet or in your personal life, you are a member of some sort of group. And even if like, unless you are completely brainwashed or indoctrinated by some sort of ideology, you do have your own mind, and you do have individual thoughts, and you perceive the world through your own consciousness. But you are still a part of some sort of group or collective, a member of such a group or collective. I just don't see any reason really to like argue over like, oh, is the group more important or the individual? Because well, I would just say it depends. Like, let's say like if an individual likes to sodomize children, then I would say the group should violate that individual's self-determination and prevent him from sodomizing children. But let's say an individual likes to eat bananas, but everybody else in his group says that no, bananas are evil, you shouldn't eat bananas, then I would side with that individual, like no, I think he has the right. But the point is that it's not really a issue of individualism versus collectivism. It's an issue of your values, basically, what you believe. Like, if you are one of those guys who really hate bananas, then you would side with them. Like, okay, to give a more realistic example, some people want to allow gay marriage, some people want to ban gay marriage. I am for banning gay marriage, but some people are not. This is not about individualism or collectivism. This is about your values.
The coolest kid around, buddy.
Yeah, like I said, he was a little bit too obtuse, and it had to be intentional. Like the whole continuous like use of the word collective, that's intentional.
Yeah,
you don't have to use that word.
Just use the word group, means the same thing. Still a group of individualists.
So at the end, Sargon even admits that collective and group mean the same thing. So what's the fucking... He's admitted already, at least a year ago, that the skeptics are a community, and a community is also a group, and a group is a collective. So it's just that they are a collective with different values from the SJWs or the alt-right or conservatives or whoever. Ridiculous how they like try to pretend like, yes, we are a collective, but our values are so much higher than you, so you cannot apply the same standards to us because we are so much better. Like, seriously. Like, all Sargon is doing basically in his new rebranding of being a liberalist and we are a group of individualists is to try to reinvent the wheel. Like, these words, these concepts, they're confusing definitions instead for a long time. He's not doing anything new. He's just rebranding. He's bullshitting people with his,